GPC gate
technical presentations. Very good afternoon, all of you. My name is Srirang Booth, and I'll be presenting today the Poison Center notification, which is also called as PCN in short, and its implication on the safety data sheet. So these are the contents of today's presentation. Basically, I'll be covering what is Poison Center notification, the scope of PCN, what are the obligations within Poison Center notification, different timelines for compliance, how to start preparing for notifications, and there are some highlights on harmonized information requirements beyond safety data sheet that I'm going to cover. And obviously, I'll just talk about the implications on SDS, how Poison Center notification is going to implicate your SDS. So what is Poison Center notification? It is basically comes within Article 45 of Classification, Labeling and Packaging Regulation, which is a European regulation. It is the United Nations UNGHS adaptation of European Union, which is a separate regulation, CLP regulation. So within Article 45, all companies who are placing hazardous mixtures on the market are obliged to provide the information about certain hazardous mixtures to the relevant national bodies. So it is basically compilation of information about the hazardous mixture which are going into European market. Annex 8 of the CLP regulation, which has been adopted in March 2017, it basically talks about the data requirements, harmonized data requirements for the Poison Center notification, and this will be application, like the notification will be applicable from 1st January 2021. European Chemical Agency, ECHA, is the agency who is going to take care of this notification. And I have also shared the screenshot of a Poison Center portal managed by ECHA. And you can visit that portal, or you can also visit our GPC gateway, wherein you will be able to see all the updates which are coming on the Poison Center notification. So now going into more details about Annex 8. So within CLP regulation, Annex 8 talks about harmonization of the information requirements for certain hazardous mixtures in all EU member states. Here it is mentioned certain hazardous mixtures. So it is important that whatever mixtures which are going into European Union, all needs to give the information about the hazard of that mixture to the poison centers which are available into individual member states. So basically, this is an idea wherein the European Union will be able to collect the information about the mixtures and the hazard nature of the mixture, because earlier it was the only substance related information which was available with the poison centers at different member states, but now they are going to collate the information about the hazardous mixtures, so that wherever there is an emergency, they will be able to respond to that emergency in better prepared way. So all the preparation of the notification has to be in harmonized submission format, which is in XML format, and this submission can also be done in Euclid, because many of you are aware about Euclid. And the use of this poison center, this information will be used by the poison centers for purpose of making an emergency health response. So now coming to what are the different mixtures which are in scope of Poison Center notification. So the mixtures which are classified for human health or physical effects are only within the scope of Poison Center notification. It does not include the mixture which are classified only for environmental effects, or the mixtures which are classified only gases under pressure, or classified as explosives. So those are not covered within the PCN notification, but rest all mixtures are within the scope of Poison Center notification. There are some mixtures which are going for scientific research and development. Those are also exempted from PCN notification. And there are certain mixtures or certain sectors which are mentioned within CLP regulation are not covered within the scope of PCN. So my next slide is going to cover that. What are the exemptions within PCN? So there are mixtures which are not covered by CLP regulation article 2, which are medicinal product, veterinary medicinal product, cosmetic products, mixtures going into medical devices, mixtures going into food and feeding stuffs. So those mixtures are not covered within PCN notification. The mixtures used for research and development purpose, again, those will not be included. Also, mixtures classified only for environmental effects has an exemption from PCN notification, and mixtures which are classified only for gases under pressure and or explosives are not covered within the poison center notification. So these are the exemptions within poison center notification. And who has the obligation to do the poison center notification? So within Article 45 and Article 4.10 of the CLP regulation, it stipulates the general obligations to comply for all the distributors as well. So the substances and mixtures shall not be placed on market unless they comply with this regulation. So any mixture which is going after 1st January 2021 needs to comply with the PCN requirements as well. The primary obligations are with the duty holders such as importers and downstream users. The downstream users could be a formulator, a toll formulator, repackager, refiller, or refiller. Whereas the obligation has now also been clarified that the obligation also lies with the distributors, who could be a relabeler, rebrander, or retailer. So everybody who is based in Europe has to primarily do the poison center notification. So who can submit the information to the poison center notification? So since CLP is a European regulation, so it has to be done by the EU-based legal entities. So if there are many affiliate companies of duty holders, so in such case, one mother company can do a notification on behalf of all the affiliate company, which qualified as a foreign user. Also, the importers and the downstream users of the mixture out of scope, like the mixtures which are not within scope of poison center notification, can also do a voluntary submission, and the legal and the non-European suppliers can make the submission through the European legal entity, European legal representative. In such situation, your only representative can also act on your behalf to do the poison center notification. So what are the timelines for compliance? Basically, Annex 8 has been amended in 2017, and it has been mentioned that all the mixtures which are going for the consumer uses and the professional uses needs to do the notification before 1st January 2021. And the mixtures which are exclusively going for the industrial uses, they need to do the notification before 1st January 2024. So the notification must comply with the harmonized requirements according to the use type of the mixture. There is a transition period exists for the notifiers who has done the notification to the individual national bodies, and that will end on 1st January 2025. It means every mixture which is going for any use after 1st January 2025, they have to do the poison center notification. And if there is any change within the classification or any information about the mixture, then the poison center notification needs to be updated from time to time based on the deadline which is applicable for that particular mixture. So how to decide about the compliance date? So compliance date depends upon the end use of mixture. For example, formulator 1 is manufacturing a mixture which is going to formulator 2, formulator 3, and formulator 4. Formulator 2 is using that mixture for industrial use, formulator 3 is using that mixture for professional end use, and formulator 4 is using that mixture for consumer use. So the mixtures which is going for consumer use and professional use, that formulator 1, either formulator 1 or either formulator 3 and 4 can do the notification before 1st January 2021, whereas formulator 2 can decide to do the PCN notification by 1st January 2024, since he has been using that mixture into industrial use. So in this case, formulator 1 can do the notification, or even formulator 1 as well as formulator 2, 3, and 4 can do the notification simultaneously. It is depend upon how the mixtures will be used within the supply chain. Now we are talking about harmonized requirements in a nutshell. So basically, I'm sharing an information requirement. So what all information which will go into Poison Center notification. So the submission format, as I informed, it is Euclid compatible or it could be in XML format. And there has to be some information that needs to be submitted along with the Poison Center notification for the mixtures. It is very similar or equivalent to the member dossier that you have done earlier for doing the registration in EU. It contains the submitter details, the name and the address of the notifier. In non-European case, the only representative details will be here, and it should be consistent with the label. So label should also have the information about the submitter details. The product information, like the trade name, packaging details, use details, and the color. And the mixture information like classification and labeling of mixture, toxicological information of that mixture, compositional details, pH and physical state. There is an additional number or identifier which has been introduced within Poison Center notification, which is called as unique formula identifier. In short, it is called as UFI. It's a 10-digit number which has 12-digit number which needs to be generated for all the mixtures, and this UFI will make a link between the product and who has submitted that information at the Poison Center notification. So this UFI needs to be put onto your label or the SDS which is going with the mixture, so that authorities can make a link between that UFI and your product and the hazard information about your product. So when we talk about mixture information, earlier it was very commonly known that within mixture only the hazardous component needs to be disclosed, but in Poison Center notification it is mandatory to disclose 100% composition of that mixture. Also you need to give complete trade names and the names which are involved with that mixture or a product which are appearing in the label. You also need to share the toxicological information which is also mentioned in section 11 of your SDS. It's a free text information, so you need to collate the information about the toxicology about the components of your mixture and then submit it with the Poison Center notification. Based on the toxicological information and other physicochemical properties, you need to identify the hazard classification and labeling information about your mixture. So in this case, you have to give the hazard class, category, hazard pictograms, signal words, different hazard and precautionary statements which are going along with the labels of the mixture. And then you have to share certain physicochemical properties such as color, pH and physical state, which is important for a mixture. So this is about the mixture related information. And as I told, compositional details is mandatory. You need to give 100% compositional details of your mixture. So in this case, if you are not doing this notification, then you have to share that information with your buyer who is going to do the Poison Center notification on your behalf. So that's a key point wherein if you want to safeguard your confidential business information, because for mixture, composition is the confidential information. So you can safeguard your CBI information by doing the Poison Center notification by yourself. Here I've already talked about it. So you have to give 100% details about your mixture component. And if you are using mixture in mixture, then it becomes more complicated that you have to give the compositional details of mixtures in mixture. So you need to get the details from your suppliers. So it's a tough task to get this all information, but now it is mandatory that you have to give all the information which is available for your mixture within the Poison Center notification. So if the substance is classified or hazardous component, then you have to give the concentration more than 0.1% of that particular component you have to disclose. Whereas if the substance is a not hazardous substance, then you have any component which is more than 1%, you need to disclose that information. The product identifiers include the substance name, CAS number, IUPAC name, INCI code, whatever is available. And in case of mixture in mixture, the trade name and the UFI. If your supplier has done the notification of the mixture which you are using in your mixtures in mixture, then you have to get that UFI from your supplier. And obviously the hazard classification of the components, the labeling information is not required, but the classification information is important, and it has to be in synchronization with your existing SDS section 11. So my colleague Dr. Shweta, when she will talk about SDS, she will cover that point in more detail. So I have shared an example where the component A, component B, and component C are mixed together with different percentage. So all compositional details need to be shared for that particular mixture for which the PCN notification will be done. Now the UFI, the unique formula identifier, must be assigned to a individual mixture. Note that one mixture can have multiple UFIs based on the use of that product. What I have done is that I have shared an example wherein one mixture is going into 3 different products. So either that mixture can have one UFI or based on its mixture composition, or it can have 3 different UFIs based on the use into different products. So it is up to the individual supplier who needs to decide how the UFI will be generated for the mixture, but it is recommended that you generate one single UFI for your mixture and then share that UFI with all your further downstream users, so that the harmonized information or the correct information will be available with them, and for you to it will be easy to manage that UFI, because you need to attach that UFI with your every consignment which is going into Europe. So it will be easy for you to manage if you have one single UFI for your single mixture, one single mixture. Then obviously the product information also needs to be given, like where the mixture will be used, whether mixture has a consumer use, professional use, and the industrial use. And also you need to give the product category based on the European product categorization system. So like in your member dossier, you have life cycle where you used to give product category, environmental release category, process category. Same way for poison center notification, you need to give the European product categorization system, which has different level. I have shared an example where PC talks about the product, which is a chemical product. It goes into cleaning, so it has a short form of CLN, and it has further 4th and 5th level with a number for that particular mixture, which is going into cleaning, care and maintenance product. So these numbers can be easily available on the portal, or we can also help you out to find out these numbers which are relevant for your product. You have to also give the individual packaging types and their sizes. It is important. If your mixture is going into different packaging material, into different sizes, you have to give all the details of the packaging material with your poison center notification. No ranges are permitted. You cannot give a range, but you have to give individual packaging details and individual size of that particular product which is going into European market. So more information is required by the poison center notification. So be assured that this information is not going to be published anywhere. This information will be with the poison centers at individual member states, and this is only for the purpose of helping or responding while there is an emergency comes with your mixture into the European market. So this is not just safety data sheet, this is beyond safety data sheet, and you need to keep on adapting existing or start including the new data. You have to also give the toxicological information, which is available in section 11 of the safety data sheet of the mixture, and the safety data sheet has to be in accordance with the Annex 2 of the REACH regulation. So you need to keep on reviewing the toxicological information of the components of your mixture and keep on updating this information. This information is a free text, but it has to be provided into the individual national language. Normally, English language information is available, but if it is going into France, then it has to be also given into French language. If it is going to Spain, then it has to be given in Spanish language. If you have multi-market submissions, means you are supplying to France, you are supplying to Spain, that mixture, then you have to give that information additionally into that particular language, so that the poison center of France or poison center of Spain will have that toxicological information while responding to the emergency health response, while giving an emergency health response. Keep on checking the quality of information in section 11, and you have to also think about the references, the reliability of the references which are mentioned into the safety data sheet. So it is important to collate and start collecting this information for doing the poison center notification. Then assign a concentration to all components. You need to, as I told earlier, you need to give 100% composition. So you need to identify what are the hazardous components and what are the non-hazardous components. So in SDS, normally you don't share non-hazardous components, but within poison center notification, it is mandatory for you to give both hazardous as well as non-hazardous components. You need to give the exact concentration or the concentration ranges so that you can cover if you are manufacturing different product name with different compositional details, the range, concentration range of constituents is also allowed. The allowed range for hazardous component, it has to meet the Annex 8 requirement. So there is a special criteria for hazardous component which are going into mixture that I'm going to share into my next slide. And these limits has been defined by the authorities, and because these limits changes the classification. So if there is any change in these allowed limits, the notification has to be updated. So poison center notification is not just a one-time activity. You have to keep updated information about the mixture which are going into European market. So this is as per Annex 8. You need to declare the components of major concern. So if your mixture contains any component which is having the classification mentioned as acute toxicity category or specific target organ toxicity, single exposure or repeated exposure, or skin corrosion or serious eye damage 1 category, then you need to declare those components in your mixture. These are the concentration ranges which are allowed with the maximum width of concentration ranges which can be used within the submission for the poison center notification. So hazard classification is important as identified by Annex 8, and their maximum width of concentration range which is going into your mixture could be an allowable limit, needs to be considered while giving the information. Declaring mixtures in mixture component, again it's a challenge. So if you have full composition is known for mixture in mixture, then it's very easy. You just need to report all the substances at the final mixture level and aggregate where relevant. If the full composition of mixture in mixture, or MIMS in short, is not known, then you need to report the UFI from your supplier which is going into your mixture in mixture. And if your supplier has also not given a UFI related information, then you need to list down the compositional information from SDS along with the MIM supplier information. So whoever is supplying the mixture in mixture, his details also needs to be supported along with the copy of safety data sheet into poison center notification for mixture in mixtures. Now we'll continue with how it is going to implicate your SDS. So this UFI, unique formula identifier, needs to be included into the notification as well as onto the label or the packaging material. There is no specific rule on the placement or redesign of the label to incorporate this element, but if the product is not packed or has only industrial use, then UFI needs to be included into section 1.1 of SDS, where you used to give the registration number of the components which are going into your mixture. Simultaneously, you need to give the unique formula identifier into that relevant section of SDS. Printing of UFI needs to coincide with the submission information. So you have to be very careful. Whatever information you have submitted with poison center notification, you have to give the correct UFI for that particular product, and there should not be no mismatch into UFI and your label. In case of mixture in mixture, the compositional details are not available, then it is mandatory to give SDS and supplier information, as I told earlier. It is mandatory to have UFI, the unique formula identifier, on your SDS from 1st January 2021. So make sure that if your mixture is not coming within the scope of PCN, there might be a request from your buyer to give the UFI number, and you can do a voluntary submission for the mixture which are not scope in poison center notification. Just for your information, UFI should be the actual which has gone with the notification. You can generate UFIs out of, I mean, on the portal, on the Poison Center portal, you can generate UFI for your mixture, and number of UFIs you can generate. But those UFIs which are not going with the notification will be treated as dead UFI or inactive UFI. And if authorities find the dead UFI on your product, then obviously there will be some implications on your consignment from the authorities. So it is better you should provide the correct UFI which has gone with the Poison Center notification. Now it is important for you to revisit the classification of the mixture, and it has to be done correctly. You should have all supporting data for classification which needs to be presented in your safety data sheet. And also if you are using a multiplying factor, M factor, or specific concentration limits as per the classification criteria, then it should be also mentioned into the section 2 of SDS, which is talking about the classification of that particular SDS. Don't worry about this, my colleague is going to cover more details about classification, and even I am talking about classification in my coming slides in more details. So this is a sample label with UFI that I have tried to share, where it has the product ABC, which contains the constituents D and E. It has a UFI number and then the company details, the hazard pictograms, and the warning letter, warning load. The size, packaging size is mentioned, and then there are some precautionary statements mentioned on the label. So this kind of a label is expected after 1st Jan 2021. So what are the stepwise actionable points for you? So you need to identify and verify if you are manufacturing and exporting mixture or mixture in mixture. You need to start preparing an inventory of mixtures along with its ingredients manufactured and exported to Europe, and verify and compile the classification of the mixture as per CLP notification, and verify all the available SDS of the components as well along with your mixture SDS. If you want, we can also help you out to do the pre-assessment of your mixture to know your PCN obligations. We can also help you out to compile the data required for PCN notification, and we can also do the notification on your behalf, as we have been doing the registration for you all as an only representative with our European legal entity. So moving towards my second presentation, which talks about the steps for deciding the mixture classification. This is very important and tough step to decide the classification of your mixture. So I'm going to cover, these are the contents of my presentation: key elements of CLP, classification, labeling and packaging regulation, main obligations within CLP, what are the different types of classification, steps to classify a mixture, different methods used in classification and labeling, and then labeling and package your mixture, and some take-home messages for the mixture classification. So CLP stands for Classification, Labeling and Packaging Regulations, which is also has a number of 1272/2008. It has 4 key elements. First is to classify, second is to label and package, communicate and harmonize. So any manufacturer, importer or the downstream user of a substance or a mixture, they need to classify their substances or mixture based on the criteria mentioned into the regulation. They also needs, all the supplier needs to label and package them in accordance with the CLP regulation, and everybody has to communicate with each other whatever the classification of the substance which is visually placed into European market. So manufacturer, importer and downstream users notify their substances to ECHA on the classification and labeling inventory, and suppliers will communicate the information to the poison centers as well. The whole purpose of doing these activities will be to harmonize the classification and labeling, as CLP is the EU adaptation of UNGHS system, United Nations Globally Harmonized System. So they are going to implement that harmonized system into European level, and they will do the classification of certain substance in harmonized way, so that globally the classification will be same for the same substance. Now staying with the mixtures, the main obligation lies with the formulator within the CLP regulation. So you must classify, label and package your mixture in accordance with the CLP criteria before placing the mixture onto the European market. If you're formulating or changing the composition of the mixture, then you have to derive the classification of the mixture. So you need to analyze what all components are there, what are the different toxicological information available for that component, and based on the different rules within the CLP regulation, which I'm going to cover in my next slide, you need to decide how you are going to finalize the classification of your mixture. If you are not changing the composition and you are just buying a mixture from your supplier and supplying that mixture through the European Union, you can use the same classification as you are not doing any changes in the compositional details. But you need to make sure that whatever classification has been done by your supplier, if he has done it correctly or not, because the responsibility will be lying with the person who is placing that mixture into European market. If you import a hazardous mixture, you must classify the ingredient substances according to CLP and notify to the CNL inventory. You must keep an up-to-date information of the scientific information and the technical information which is coming as a result of registration dossier. So if the components within the mixture are registered by the supplier, you need to get the up-to-date information from them and keep on updating the classification of your mixture based on the classification of the components which are going into mixtures. So there are basically two types of classification. One is the harmonized classification and other is a self-classification. So classification which is agreed at EU level is also called as harmonized classification. It is mandatory that whenever a substance is a harmonized classified, then you have to use the harmonized classification for that particular substance. This may apply to certain hazard classes, so don't forget to take into account the other hazard classes which needs to be self-classified. So if you want to classify more than harmonized classification, you are welcome to do that, but you cannot under-classify than the harmonized classification of the substance which has been agreed at EU level. Harmonized classification applies to substance. Mixtures are never harmonized classified. Mixtures are always self-classified. So the substances and the mixture for which the classification is done on the toxicological data or the data for that particular substance or mixture, it is called as self-classification. Substances are self-classified as appropriate when classification is not harmonized for the substance or particular hazard. And all mixtures again are self-classified, they are not or never harmonized classified. So how to do the how to classify a mixture? So there are 5 basic steps to classify a mixture. You need to identify all available information about your mixture, and then you need to examine and cross-check the reliability of the information which you have collected. You have to then evaluate whatever information you have got about your mixture or the components of mixture and evaluate them against the classification criteria mentioned into the CLP regulation. Once you have evaluated that toxicological values compared with the classification criteria, you can decide upon the classification and labeling information from the CLP regulation. So once you have examined all the components of the mixture, then you can review the final classification of the mixture. And if you want, you can run around these 5 steps again and again individually for individual components, and then collate the information and combine the information together. So it is important every classification of the mixture has to follow these 5 steps only. So consider what all information you actually have and examine whatever information you have, whether it is relevant and reliable, and then proceed hazard by hazard. So you can go by each individual hazard by hazard classification of your mixture, and you can, once you have decided upon the hazard classification, the labeling requirements can be identified from the regulation, and then this needs to be reviewed from time to time. So these are the 5 key steps to classify a mixture. There are also different methods mentioned into the CLP regulation. I'm going to, I'll just try to cover those methods into my next slides. So when you want to classify your mixture for physical hazard, it is recommended that you should do that physical hazard classification based on the test data which is available for the mixture. You can also do the physical hazard classification using the calculators which are also available, but it is preferred that you use the data, actual test data for the physical hazard classification of the mixture. But if you want to go for a health and environmental hazard classification, then you can use the classification derived using the data on the mixture itself. Like if you have toxicological studies already conducted for the mixture, you can use that data. You can also use bridging principles. In my next slides, I'm going to cover what is bridging principles. And you can also do the classification based on the calculation or the concentration thresholds of the components which are going into your mixture. So going into bridging principles, there are 5 bridging principles which are mentioned within the regulation, which can be used for classifying the mixture. First is a dilution principle, wherein like there is a mixture which is already tested. You have a test data available, and you are using a diluent B, which has a known classification, and making a formula or a mixture C with the combination of A and B. And you can use the classification of A and B directly for the mixture C. There is a batching principle. Batching means if you have classified a mixture for one batch and you are manufacturing the same mixture into different batch, you can use the same classification for all the batches within the batching principle of classification. There is also concentration of highly hazardous mixtures. So if you know there are highly hazardous mixture which are present in your highly hazardous components which are present in mixture, you can directly adapt the classification of hazardous components based on the concentration of the components in the mixture. There is also interpolation within one hazard category. Here I just want to share an example where there is a mixture A with 2 different components with 2 different ranges, and mixture B with the same components with different concentrations. And these 2 mixtures A and B have classification of aquatic acute 1 based on the 2 components which are used. And if you are manufacturing the mixture C with again the different concentration range of the same components, you can directly take the classification of mixture A or mixture B, because the concentration of components lies within range. So you can interpolate the classification of mixture A and mixture B to mixture C. This is one bridging principle, and there is a final bridging principle which is also known as substantially similar mixture. So as you know, there are substances which are functionally and structurally similar. Same ways, if the mixtures are similar, you know that the components are same, which are going into same concentrations, then you can adapt the substantially similar mixture principle while doing the or deciding the classification. So these are the 5 bridging principles which are mentioned within the CLP regulation. Now moving towards another criteria for doing the classification. This is most popularly used by all the companies, classification based on calculations or concentration thresholds. So classification can be based on calculations. So there is a formula which is been given to do the acute toxicity estimate. The calculation method can only be used for acute toxicity estimate, and it cannot be used for the higher toxicity estimate. So this has limitation, but the classification based on the concentration thresholds can be easily adapted. So there are generic cutoff values and the generic concentration limits of the components which are mentioned. So if your component has a classification A, say for example your component is acute toxicity category 1 classified, then there is a concentration limit and cutoff value mentioned within the regulation, which says that if it is if that particular classification component is present more than 1%, then you can adopt the same classification of that component to your mixture. There is also an additivity principle that can be used. So you can just add on classification of the mixture and combine the classification together within the additivity principle. This will over classify your mixture, but then you will be on the safe side from the regulator's point of view. So it is some important points when you classify your mixture is if the ingredient substance has a harmonized classification and labeling, then you have to classify that. Harmonized classification must be taken into consideration while classifying your mixture. And if you are basically your supplier is responsible for evaluating all the hazard classes, and he has to do the self classification. But if he hasn't done the self classification correctly, then it is your responsibility to do the additional hazard class and differentiations which are not covered by the harmonized classification and labeling system. Thus, the full classification received from the substance supplier, including both harmonized classification and possible self classification, must be applied while deriving the classification for the mixture. This is very common question which comes into your mind. Why does the same chemical have sometimes two different classifications? So you're buying the same chemical from supplier A and supplier B. They have classified the substance differently. So there could be different reasons for these two different classification. Either the classification is different because of the hazard impurities or additives or ingredients which the supplier A and B are using. There could be a different properties such as physical form, pH, and the flash point of the quantities or the component which has been supplied. There could be a different conclusion from scientific studies. So supplier A might have used different study for classifying the substance, whereas supplier B has used different study. So scientific conclusion may trigger the difference in classification. For mixtures, different classification of ingredient substance used for mixer classifications. Then again, like which principle has been used by the supplier